Hello and welcome to another AIC video. Today I am going to share with you one of my failures. Typically on this channel I try to only share things with you that either excite me, I think you might be interested in, or have some sort of benefit to you. But today I have spent so much time on this, so much effort on this. I don't want you to kind of go through some of the same things that I did if you're kind of running into some of the same thing. As anybody today would know, buying a new computer is kind of an expensive process. Stock is very low across the board from all manufacturers. Prices are way up, and it just is really hard to find something new that is of good value. Used has gotten even harder. For years, I've recommended systems like this. An X220, an X250, 260, something like that from Lenovo. The reason being is these are bought by businesses in bulk, and when the lease is up, they sell them. Sometimes they'll even still have warranty on them, be in pretty decent, lightly used condition with lots of accessories, and are fairly decently powerful computers. This one has a 5th gen Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gig SSD. No complaints from me as far as overall performance. And I think I paid about $120, $130 for it. But that's not the case so much anymore. Used computer prices, because new ones have gotten so expensive and not a very good deal, the purchase of used ones has gone up, demand has gone up, so prices have gone up. Because people are buying fewer new ones, companies are holding on to their system a little bit longer, there's less stock of old ones. And so this computer now that I spent $110, $120 on a couple years ago now goes for over $200 if you find one in decent condition with a power supply and the OS installed. You can find cheaper deals, but they're a lot harder and fewer to find than they were previously. So I went through kind of my computer history to kind of see what I might have bought in the past that might be worth buying today as a budget basic computer system. If you just need a computer and you need to spend as little money as possible, what have I had in the past that you can buy used that might be a good option? Something like this X250, not so much anymore. And I remembered Netbooks. So a little history, Netbooks came out somewhere around 2007, ran through about 2014 or so as far as being a class of computer. And they were at the time a low budget system with very basic specs so that people could buy a computer that wouldn't normally be able to afford one. And I thought, great, basic computers, that's what I love. Small computers, that's what I love. Something super small, super portable. And because they were kind of before that soldered CPU time frame and before soldered memory, things like that, upgradable. They'll have an upgradable storage, upgradable RAM. Let's go for it. And so when these first came out, I bought a couple. I bought an E PC for my wife that was running at the time a flavor of Linux. It wasn't even a Windows computer. But when I went to buy one for myself, this is what I bought. It's a Samsung NC10. And I really liked the look of these. I thought at the time they were very smart. A lot of them were very budget looking in their design. They did smarten up a little bit and make them a little bit nicer looking. But when I bought mine, they were pretty plasticky. I mean, they're all plastic, but pretty cheap feeling. They definitely felt low rent. I liked the keyboard on it. It had a bigger keyboard than most of them had standard. I think it's a 93% keyboard, so it's much more comfortable to type on. And I liked its battery life. It came with more of an extended battery, and so it had like a 6-hour battery life when it was new, where a lot of them only had like a 3-hour battery life. So definitely better battery life, better keyboard. I don't like the way it looked. So that's why I picked this one. And so because I was already familiar with it, I decided to go with it as my netbook option. So what was my failure? The first one being that I had forgotten just how slow these were. These were definitely very low powered, even at the time. In fact, when these came out, specifically the Samsung NC10, Windows 7 had already come out. So Windows Vista had come out and Windows 7 had come out before these launched, and they were still running Windows XP. Reason being is they couldn't run Vista and 7. In my testing, I installed 7 and it didn't run. I mean, it ran technically, but it wasn't usable. They're slow. They are not something you'd want to try to use today as far as overall performance. Also, I forgot these use DDR2 memory, and the biggest DDR2 memory that I could find that was of any reasonable price was 2 gigs. Well, they already have 2 gigs of RAM in them, and I technically could buy a 4 gig DIMM of RAM, but they're like $100 each, and so that one DIMM of RAM was more than these two computers combined in cost, and I just couldn't justify spending that much money. And I did go ahead and install an SSD into one of these, and because of the other bottlenecks, there was really no performance improvement with an SSD over just the standard hard drive for what it can actually do, especially running with Windows XP. It just didn't make the impact I was expecting it to. My next failure was that I had forgotten that at the time these came out, they were 32-bit computers. They're not 64-bit compatible. I have my Compact V2000 that's older than these, but it's running a Turion 64-bit processor, so I could install a 64-bit operating system, a more modern operating system. Not that it can take advantage of it, just that I had a very wide variety of options on the market for a more current modern operating system. So I can install my favorite flavor of Linux. That's not the case with these. I usually go with like an Ubuntu or an Ubuntu based operating system. That's no longer available 32-bit. It's only 64. So I had to do a lot of digging to find a 32-bit operating system that was up to date and patched and secure for getting on the internet today. And so I went ahead, and that's on what I'm running on this one is a 32-bit version of Linux. It doesn't run well. I was just surprised at how poorly it ran. It just is not fast enough for even basic computing use with a modern operating system. With a basic install of Linux, it slowed the system down enough that I could type faster than it could put the characters up on the screen. That's not okay. With Windows XP, it runs fine with Windows XP, but Windows XP is not a modern operating system. It is not something you're going to put on the internet. It's not something that you're going to want to use for everyday tasks, everyday computing. You can't watch YouTube videos. You can't get on even Facebook or Reddit or anything like that that is considered more kind of a normal everyday task. It just can't handle it. And I was surprised. I was expecting better because these are actually dual core CPUs, but even with 2 cores, they just don't have the performance to cut it. And then lastly, these systems they're old. And so if you don't get one with a power supply, good luck finding a power supply. This one's battery is dead. It's toast. I can't replace it. I possibly get it rebuilt, but at what cost? To get the cells replaced is going to cost me an arm and a leg and probably one of my children. This one has an extended battery. You can tell this one has a battery that's toast. This one has the extended battery. You can tell that because it's sitting up a lot higher. But even with this extended battery, which at the time when it was released would last 9-10 hours, it lasts 2 or 3. So the battery on this one is also on its way out the door and would not need to be rebuilt. I can't find replacement batteries for these. I can buy used batteries, but I'm not going to buy a used battery for $100 when I don't know what its lifespan is going to be. So, it just, something like this Lenovo, I can buy replacement parts for it all day long, right? Even if I were to go with an older generation, I can still buy power cords, batteries, screen bezels, keyboards, everything that you can imagine under the sun, because they sold so many and they reused parts over so many generations that replacement parts are readily available and still being made new today for people. That just isn't the case for these netbooks. They're not something that you're going to be able to find replacement parts, do any kind of serious repairs, unless you're able to do it yourself. You're just not going to be able to. So in final conclusion, while I love these systems, I think they're a lot of fun. I'm going to be returning this one back to being Windows XP. This one is also going to stay Windows XP. We're going to leave them as is and call it good. We're not going to we're not going to be keeping these, or at least not both of them. I'll go through, figure out which one's a little bit nicer of the two. Keep that one. The other one will be finding a new home. It is not something that I think I need to do any more videos on. Don't buy an old netbook unless you want to buy it for nostalgic reasons. Even then, if you want it for a Windows XP machine, there are a lot of other Windows XP machines out there that are better. About the only reason I see wanting something like this is if you had a very specific Windows XP piece of software you had to run on a Windows XP machine. I've come across those ones I couldn't even run through a virtual machine because they needed some sort of hardware access or something. I'm thinking like an automotive diagnostic tool pretty much is really the only thing in the back of my mind that I can think of. I've had those before, then they don't really run very well in a virtual machine. Something like this would be okay for something like that, because you're not going to be connecting to the internet. You're connecting it to a car to run diagnostic, to run some sort of ECU programming software, something like that. Maybe if you have a CNC machine or some other industrial hardware that requires running Windows XP natively on a machine that has to be plugged in. Okay, that kind of makes sense for something like this. You want it small, you want it kind of not taking up a lot of room. You need it to be portable from place to place. That might be a good use case for something like this, but other than that, skip the netbook, buy something else, buy something newer. I would save up your pennies if you have to and buy an older ThinkPad or an HB ZBook or the Dell business class of notebooks. They tend to last and tend to be better value for the money, even in today's age where money doesn't seem to mean as much as it used to. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm getting real close to 5,000 subscribers. Please subscribe. I also have some affiliate links if you want to support the channel in the video description. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.